Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the video. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Wow, have we ever got a video? This is one for the ages. How lucky you are to have tuned into this about the definitive. I've got some definitive information about record cleaning. And this will enable you to make an educated decision about how you want to clean your records. It doesn't matter if you're just starting out cleaning records or if you've been doing it for years and you want to know the best ways to clean the record. Got all the information. So what's the new stuff, Ron? What's the definitive kind of information that you got? Well, there's a guy called Steve Evans, and he has a business called Perfect Vinyl Forever. And I was watching a video where he was talking about the process by where you make the record, right? The process itself is creating a problem in record cleaning. And the problem is they add plasticizers. They're mixed with the PVC pellets to form the puck. And the puck is, that looks like a hockey puck. That's the pellets that's mixed. When they mix the plasticizers, they mix all the pellets up, and you end up with a puck. Well, Ron, what's the plasticizers? Yeah, we got to know what all these words are. They're all important, right? Especially plasticizers. What is that? Well, I looked it up, and a plasticizer is typically a solvent type substance that's added to the raw pellets or the polymers, right? The plasticizers are there to improve the flexibility. It makes it more pliable. It makes it easier to shape or to mold or to press, right? It enables the polymer to flow better, right? And it also, for the record now, it increases the flexibility of the record, and it reduces the brittleness of the record. So this plasticizer now, that's very, very important, because without that, you're not even going to make a good record at all. It's not going to work properly. But we have some unintended consequences, because the plasticizer in the process now, and we'll finish the process. You got the puck, you've got the two plates that are coming down on the press to squeeze that puck into the plates to make a record, right? So heat is added to this whole process on the top and the bottom, and this enables the polymer to flow into all the microscopic grooves, because now the plasticizer is going to aid in making it more flexible and pliable and moldable and all that. This is great. But what happens when they're heating it up, that plasticizer is a solvent. And so that solvent migrates to the top. It's attracted to the heat, the top and the bottom. It's going towards the surface of the record in both directions. And that is now going to form a film on that record. At this point, when you're done, at that point, now they're adding cool water to cool down the record, because they don't want it to be, malleable anymore. They want it to be a finished product. They want, at this point, all they're looking for is that where it's flexible and it's not brittle. That's the two parts they want. And that's the parts that they got. But they also have this film on the record. And that is what is going to be a detriment to your audiophile playback quality. That's going to inhibit those high-end pickups from extracting that fine inner detail off the record groove, because you've got that film on there. Your needle, even though it's able to extract that information, it's not going to be able to get that last bit off, because you've got a film in the way of the fine detail is not going to be able to be traced. Now, for your average person that just wants to clean the record, they want to get the dust off. They want to try to keep the static off their record. right? So anytime that you add a liquid to the record surface and then you use a brush and then you dry it off with a towel, you're only cleaning the surface of the record. You're not getting down into the groove. Now, especially if you're like when you're putting soap, you're putting sprays, you're putting liquids on there, they all have some types of detergents and whatever in that process. All that stuff has to be rinsed off the record before you dry it. You can't leave it on the record. So if you're not interested in rinsing and vacuuming and all that step, don't ever put any liquid on your record. Just clean the surface, because the entry-level cartridges and tone arms, turntables and all that, they're not able to get really deep down in there anyway. And I know that because when I made my first video about how to get the best from your spin clean, I was telling the folks at that time that I was using the soap like they tell you to do when you get to spin clean. And for me, with my turntable, the records actually sounded worse than they did before I even played them. And I noticed now my needle was getting full of lint. And my records really, I mean, they weren't dirty to start with. I mean, they're basically new records, a lot of them, or they're clean. And I would never really get lint on my needle. But now I was getting all this lint. Well, what's going on? So I finally surmised that obviously it's because after 2 or 3 plays, the lint stopped coming off and the record was quiet at that point. So I'm cleaning all the soap out of my record. So I just started using water with the spin clean and drying with the towel, and I didn't have the noise anymore. The records, they actually sounded better, because during that agitation and that cavitation in the water, you were loosening some of the stuff out of the groove and it was coming out, but you're still not getting that film off the record. But you're able to clean, getting a lot of the dirt off the record. And after, when I added the vacuum at the second stage, now I finally was called up by some folks and they said, Ron, you really got to vacuum your records. You're going to be surprised how much better they sound. So I added the Record Doctor 5 to vacuum them. And then I said, wow, yeah, I really hear that the records actually are sounding better. Because then you're able to get all the dirt, and you can now that it's loosened up in the groove, instead of just drying it and letting the remaining dry in the groove, I'm able to pull the dirt out of the groove. So they're getting really clean at this point, but I still have the film on there. So there's another step that I needed to do, but I didn't realize it at the time, right? Not until I used this product. And I said, well, what is this? This is doing something. And I tried to figure out what it was. And I talked about it in my previous video about the TurgiClean. And I was basically right. But I didn't know it was the plasticizer that was creating the film. I knew something was creating a film. I didn't know it was the plasticizer at the time. So now that we know that, and now Steve Evans is adamant, if you are cleaning your record with any type of fluids, those fluids have to be rinsed off. He said it's more important to rinse your record than it is about the cleaning process you're using. That is always a very, very important part of the process, rinsing. So if you're just using water, you don't need to rinse it off because you're not using anything that needs to be rinsed off. But once you start using TurgiClean or Ifitol or soap or detergents or anything in that water, you've got to rinse it off. And then the next step is you need to vacuum it off, in my opinion. Because you start adding things in there, now you've got to get it off the record the best you can for the best results. But all these things we're talking about, the detergents and the soaps and stuff, you're still not going to get that film off your record unless you use a surfactant or you use high frequency ultrasonic. Let's talk about the ultrasonic for a second here. According to Mr. Evans, according to Steve, you need to use 120 kilohertz in order to break it, to get the bubble size small enough to get into the microscopic groove to break the film. So the degrader has 120 kilohertz. The Humming Guru works at 40. The current Christmas is at 40. A lot of and I think the KL Audio is also 40. They don't actually say that much about the KL Audio, what it is, but I did ask Google and they said it was at 40 kilohertz. So according to Steve, now you have to use 120 in order to break that film off of there. So what he suggests to do with the ultrasonics is, if you want to get the film off the record, you have to use the surfactant. He likes the TurgiClean. He thinks it's a great product. So you use your TurgiClean. If you have a Humming Guru, let's say, you can get an extra tray, one for the cleaning fluid and one for the rinsing. Very important. If you put anything besides water now to clean your records, that has to be rinsed off. So use your Humming Guru, you use your cycle to clean with the TurgiClean, and then you use the cycle to rinse. And then I would suggest, if you have a Record Doctor 5, or you have a 16.5, if you have a VPI, or you have some type of machine like that does vacuum, I would actually suggest, because Steve also suggests, to vacuum the record after. It's the thing that does a lot of good for cleaning records. When he gets a record, and let's talk about this again, because we've all probably experienced it. If you bought enough used records, you'll get that record, it looks perfect. Looks so clean. There's not a scratch on it. It looks pristine. You put it on the turntable and it's the worst, noisiest record you've ever heard. Well, how is that possible? This illustrates the folks that are using the sprays, they're using water, they're using some soaps on their records, and they're drying it off, but with a towel. So now the surface looks very clean, but when you use a high-end device, a fine profile needle, like a microline, and you go in the groove, now you're hearing all the soap that this fella probably never even ever heard on his record. So that's why it's important to rinse your record and vacuum them, even if you use an ultrasonic. But if you do want it, it's not imperative, because a lot of you folks are using your ultrasonic and you know that just what you're doing, you're satisfied with. But I'll tell you what, if you use the surfactant and you break that film, the records are going to sound a lot better. Okay, so what's the other process? Ron, I'm just interested in cleaning the lint off the dirt off my records, get the surface clean of all the dust. I want to clean the dust off of it, and I actually want to get that static off my record. I'm not interested in all this audiophile cleaning stuff. What should I do? All you need is this, $20. Get yourself a carbon fiber brush. You might already have one. You don't need to do anything else. Go across, hold it on the surface of the record, and then move it to the outside of the record and remove the dust. The second stage, put it on the surface of the record. These carbon fibers, they will conduct electricity, and that static will be stored in this aluminum body of it. So that the next step, you run it on the record for a bit, and then you pull it towards the spindle and you discharge it. And if your stereo's on, you'll actually hear the static discharging. That will help get rid of the static. Now you clean the surface of the record. You've gotten rid of most of the static on the record, and now you want to put it in a proper outer sleeve, which we'll talk about on another video. But you'd never want to keep your record in a paper in a sleeve, because that motion between pulling it in and out of that paper, it's like rubbing a balloon on your hair. It's causing static. The record is clean, it goes in this the paper, you pull it out, it charges with static, you play the record on the turntable, you take it off and you go, why is there dust on my record? Because that thing is like a magnet now for dust. All them little particles in the air, they're being attracted and they're sticking on the record. That's why you want to use the new polylined rice paper, whatever you want to call it, inner sleeves. You don't ever want to put it in the paper. So for your average person that just wants to clean the dust off the record, that's the only thing you should be doing. Because anytime, like I said before, where you're putting water, you're putting fluids on your records, and you're just drying them off, you're not getting, the fluids are staying in the groove. So then I'm going to turn the camera and I'm going to show you the process that I use to clean the record. And as you can see, what's playing on the turntable is the restoned. So right by the restoned album cover, you'll see that first spin clean. That's the spin clean that I use to cause the cavitation and the agitation, because no matter what brush you use, it's never going to get into the grooves. Even on the Ultrasonics, it's the cavitation process that's cleaning the inside the microscopic groove until you get to about the 120 kilohertz. Those are smaller bubbles now. They're able to get deeper into the groove and clean off the film. So the first one is just for cleaning with the isotope. And I rotate the record 7 full turns, or 14 half turns in each direction. So I'm spinning the record about 14 times in there. For the 3 or 4 minutes that I'm spending on the one time that I'm ever going to clean this record, it's worth it. And as Steve said, it's more important to rinse the record properly than it ever is to clean it. So if you're not going to rinse it, don't even bother putting any kind of fluids on your records. So now the second step, when we move over to the second spin clean, that's just your distilled water. And again, now I'm going to increase the number of revolutions. I was doing about 5, but I'm going to go up to 7 because Steve has made it really clear how important the rinsing cycle is. And once it's rinsed, the final process now is I go over to the vacuum and I vacuum the record. And this is going to pull all the loosened material that hasn't fallen out of the groove. The vacuum is now going to pull all of the rest of the dirt and the film and all the stuff that's left. It's going to extract the best way possible to get all that off my record, and it's actually going to dry my record at the same time. So in about the 4 minutes it takes to do this process, I go from a dirty record to a perfectly clean and dry record that I can now put aside and start the next record. So I hope everybody has learned the problems associated with cleaning records, and you can take the steps that you need in your process to clean the records. And thanks so much for watching, and I hope y'all enjoyed the video. And don't forget now, if you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe. This is the type of information I provide on a weekly basis. And don't forget, all my friends, always like the video. And thanks for watching. And bye for now.